The new Culture Secretary here in the studio, Michelle Donelan. Hi, good to see you. Good morning. 2.3 billion is what Liz Truss is promising. Again, where's that money coming from?
We're the second biggest military donor, and we are committed to doing that again next year. We'll outline exactly the details of where that funding is from, but we believe as a government it's fundamentally important that we're standing up for democracy, that we're continuing to protect Ukraine in their fight back, and that we're standing up for the rest of the world who needs to end their global dependence on Russia, which is one of the factors behind the increasing price in fuel. So this is actually going to help the cost of living of people not just in the UK, but across the globe as well. And we hope that other countries will see what we're doing and follow our example.
But where's the money coming from?
As I said a moment ago, Kay, we will outline exactly where that money is coming from, but I'm sure that you agree with me that this is vitally important. I'm not going to preempt the Chancellor's fiscal event. The fiscal event is on Friday. I'm not going to preempt exactly what he's going to say in that event, but we'll be outlining there more support in terms of cost of living, looking at taxation, like we promised during the campaign to secure Liz Truss as Prime Minister, and all the details will be coming out on Friday.
The reason our bills are so high is because of the war in Ukraine. How high do those bills have to go before we have to reevaluate our support?
No, this isn't about our support this year. This is about saying that we are going to continue our support next year,
that's not
just
my
as much in terms of the Ukraine.
Yeah,
if you're talking about support for people in a country, we've already given considerable support. So we put the money into the Household Support Fund. We also gave the money on council tax. But what we've announced as a government that's only just been in post for 2 weeks with this new Prime Minister is an energy price guarantee where we are assuring the British public that they will get at least £1,000 off their energy bills had we not acted. And that's on top of the other measures we've taken. In the coming months, people will get £400 off their energy bills, irregardless of their income. The most vulnerable in society will be getting at least £1,200. So you've got to look at the package in the round. There's a great deal of support that we've been putting in place. We've always been honest that this winter is going to be hard. And one of our overarching priorities is to support people through it, whilst also growing the economy and preventing this from ever happening again.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't explain myself very well. My question is, the reason that bills are going up as high as they are is because of the situation in Ukraine.
It's a big driving factor, yes.
Yes, so how high do our bills have to go before we reevaluate our support in Ukraine?
Well, I don't think that is the case. We're not reevaluating our support in the Ukraine. What we're saying is we're doubling down on our support in the Ukraine.
So how high do bills have to go? It doesn't matter how high they go.
Well, no. So we've already allocated £2.3 billion to support Ukraine in terms of the military effort. We're the third biggest supporter in terms of humanitarian effort. What we're saying in this announcement is our support for next year. We're committing again to support the Ukraine by the same tune. And we're encouraging other countries around the globe, and that's what the Prime Minister will be doing at the UN General Assembly, to ensure that we're all working together to support the Ukraine to help bring those bills down, which are also up because of COVID as well, as you know.
Yeah. What's the Prime Minister going to be talking to Joe Biden about, given that a trade deal's not on the table?
Well, I can't go into details of exactly what the Prime Minister will be talking about in a bilateral meeting, but what I can say is that will be happening this week. It's in the diary. UK and the US have enjoyed a very special relationship over the years. We want to cement that, solidify that, and make sure that relationship is completely fostered between both of those leaders.
But looking at what Liz Truss, our Prime Minister, has said, it doesn't look as though there's a trade deal on the table.
Well, look, the Prime Minister and the President will be meeting this week. They'll be talking about a variety of different issues, including potential trade deals. So let's see what comes out of that meeting.
Not according to Liz Truss. She said not.
Well, yes, so I'm saying they'll be talking about a range of different things. The purpose of this meeting is not to secure a trade deal. This is the first bilateral meeting between the newly elected Prime Minister and the President of the United States.
Talk to me about the Queen's funeral. How much did it cost the taxpayer?
We haven't got that total figure, but I think the taxpayer would argue that it was money well spent. In my own constituency, I saw so many people coming out to celebrate for the Jubilee across the community. And in DCMS, the department that I lead, we've been leading on the efforts around the queue, and that was remarkable. And not just in terms of the amount of people.
How many people queued? Do we know?
So over 250,000 went through Parliament. We're just crunching the final numbers. So that's an approximate figure at the moment, Kay, but we'll get back to you with the exact one. And it wasn't just those people. It was also the community that rallied around that. We had St John's Ambulance supporting, we had the Samaritans supporting, we had the Red Cross supporting, we had members of the public coming up with, items of cake and food. And it was a great sense of the community coming together. I always think of our late monarch as the glue that brought society together and communities together. And in her final sort of act, that's exactly what she did. And it was remarkable to see that on the ground. Having spoken to members in the queue, they'd come from afar all over the four corners of the nation, and they felt determined to
beyond.
wait. Yeah.
And beyond.
Indeed.
So more than 250,000. When will
Approximately.
we... Yeah, more than... Yeah. When will we know the cost of the funeral, given that we don't know it yet?
Look, I'm not sure of the exact costings, but as I said, I think the British public, would argue that that was money well spent. You saw so many thousands out there, and I don't think anybody could suggest that our late monarch didn't deserve that send-off, given the duty and the selfless service that she committed to over 70 years. I think it would be downright preposterous to suggest we shouldn't have celebrated her
I'm just asking
service.
how much it cost.
Yeah, so I've said I don't have those figures to hand.
But we will have it in the fullness of time.
So that wouldn't be my decision to take, Kay.
OK. Talk to me about when you were at Education. I mean, you weren't there very long, were you?
Well, I was there for over 3 years.
Yeah, as the Secretary of State, how long were you there?
Yeah, well, as you know the answer already, Kay, it was 36 hours, but I was serving in the Cabinet for 10 months, and before that, Minister in 2 different roles. So I was there for over 3 years.
OK, £17,000 is what you got, apparently, as a payoff.
As you know the answer to that one as well, Kay, I didn't take that.
OK, so you said that you were going to give it to a charity?
No, I didn't. I said that if I wasn't able to reject the money, I would give it to a charity, but I rejected it.
Oh, OK.
As you already know.
OK, I didn't know that. That's why I asked you the question. OK, I was surprised you didn't give it to a charity, but there you go.
Well, it was taxpayers' money, so I think it would be wrong for me to take taxpayers' money, then decide, which charity I wanted to give it to. So I was very clear that if I was able to reject it, I would reject it, and I did.
OK. Talk to me about the online harm bill. Where are we going with that?
So it's a vital piece of legislation. It was in our manifesto. As we know, the world has changed remarkably, and it is important that we prioritise protecting children. Having spoken to a number of parents and organisations in this sector, it is important that we fill in the gaps in our legislation and protect children, which is what this bill does. So we're going to get it back to Parliament as soon as possible, finish it off. It's been through most stages.
That for a long time. I remember interviewing the Chief Exec of Ofcom more than a year ago, and it was supposed to become law last year. Still waiting.
Well, it's gone through most of the stages. As we've just elected a new Prime Minister, we've had a period of national mourning. We will be bringing it back to the House as soon as we possibly can. It does require a little bit of work, not in relation to protecting children online. Absolutely not. We're not changing any of that. But we want to make sure that we've got the balance right in terms of free speech in relation to adults.
So when will it become law?
As I just said, as soon as possible, we bring it back to the Commons, and we do need to edit that bill. So we're just in the process of getting that done, and then we'll be bringing it back. Of course, we couldn't have done that in the last 10 days because we had a period of national.
Yeah, you've had plenty of time before that.
Yes, but I've only been in post 2 weeks, Kay. And what I'm saying to you today is I'm committing...
Secretary before you, though. It's not as if it was, there was no one in post.
What I'm saying to you as I sit here today is that I'm giving you my cast-down guarantee that I'm committed to this. It's my number one priority. I'm going to make sure that the bill is slightly tweaked, bring it back to Parliament as soon as possible, because I completely understand why this is a vital piece of legislation to protect children online.
Do big tech companies do enough to protect our kids?
I think that the problem is that it can be inconsistent and they aren't always held to account on this. So the answer is no, which is why we're bringing forward legislation to ensure that they do.
When you say held to account, which ones in particular hold them to account?
Well, that's why we're bringing forward legislation to give us the ability.
About.
Well, this bill is primarily focused, it is focused, providers that generate online content. So a lot of that is social media providers. We've got the inquest starting today in the absolutely tragic case of Molly Russell. And we all know that she is just...
Let's just remind our viewers, she was 14. She killed herself as a result of online harm back in 2017. I mean, are we looking at... people like Facebook, people like Twitter, they need to, Instagram, they need, of course, Facebook, they need to be doing more.
But they do need to be doing more, which is why we're going to legislate to ensure that they do, so that we have not only the legal powers to do so, but also we can then whack them with massive, massive fines, which then is a big deterrent and ensures that they act in a responsible way from the off.
Will you abolish the BBC licence fee?
So I've only been in the post 2 weeks, but what I can say is over the last few days, the BBC did a tremendous job, as did Sky, in covering a very poignant moment in British history as we celebrated the life of our late monarch. But it is no secret that I have been a long-term sceptic of the licence fee, and that we need to make sure that the BBC is sustainable in the long term. So I'm looking at this in the round. I'm somebody that listens. I'm somebody that decides policy based on evidence, and that's what I will be doing over the coming weeks.
Yeah, you pointed out that although you were only in post 2 weeks, you've been in government for many years. I'm sure that the BBC licence fee has come up on occasion. Do you think it's time for it to be scrapped?
I think we need to make sure that the BBC is sustainable in the long term. As I've
already
said.
What does that actually mean?
Well, it means that in an age when you have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime, you have all of these other subscription-based channels, then it does throw into question whether the current model that the BBC uses is actually sustainable in the long term and is providing that choice element to the general public. But as I said, I'm somebody that listens. I make decisions based on evidence. That's what I will be doing over the coming weeks. I'm not going to make policy on the hoof. I don't think that's the right approach when we're looking at these big policy decisions.
OK, good to talk to you. Thanks for
you.
taking the time to join us.
Thank
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.